Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan Ennis Pearce. Ukraine War News Update. First part thereof for the 9th of September 2022. 9th of September, 28 degrees Celsius day out there. Stonkingly hot for this time of year. It's insane. I've got one of these 12-foot, cheap best way swimming pool things for the kids. We got 3 years ago. Use it every summer. I took it down the end of the school holidays. September's here. I was like, right, get that bad boy down. The leaves are going to start falling. It's cold and windy and wet. Took it down, and we have a heat wave. Oh, my kids are annoyed. Oh, well. Let's get to the general staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. And there are some incredibly large figures again. 600 personnel lost. Now, there's still this question is what does personnel mean? So the general staff moved away from using liquidated personnel to just personnel. And here's a really very good video to watch if you want to. All the links to these first two sections are in the description below. This is Counting the Dead, how many Russians have really died in Ukraine from War Graphics. Excellent. It's from 2 weeks ago, so it's pretty much on it. Talks a lot about the BBC BBC Mediazona project for Counting the Dead. Talks about the counting of inheritance claims, I think it is, and whatnot. Really, really interesting. But there is, as far as I can see, just no way that 270,000, 268,000 refers to dead. I know a lot of people think it does, but I doubt that's the case. I think that probably is casualties. You know, when you look at all the intelligence outfits from around the world, British, US intelligence, no one's touted a number that big for deaths. So I make of all these data points what you will. But I think when you start looking at all the figures and all the ways of being able to, as accurately as possible, get a sense of how many have died, then I would say that's probably off the scale for dead, but is much more realistic when it comes to dead and seriously wounded. But let me know what you think in the threads below. Go and watch that video and see what it says. 600 personnel yesterday taken out. That is, again, a fairly significant number on the higher end of the range that we've seen over the last 3 months. Not the highest, it's not 1,000. It has been higher than that during the counteroffensive, but I think that is a fairly decent number. 15 tanks, 13 APVs. Again, really consistent attrition of those pieces of equipment, and 36 artillery systems. It's just phenomenal day in, day out. Now, the question is for these categories, particularly the artillery systems, is what does that entail? Now, are there large mortars that would be included in that? Well, self-propelled mortars would be. Are there mortar systems that get taken out that are large enough to be seen as artillery pieces? I know there's a general accepted sort of definition of heavy mortars as part of artillery, but to take out 36 is just phenomenal. Now there's lots of bits of footage here. For example, the Ukrainian army's Ochi detachment destroyed a rare Russian artillery asset. So this is a heavy mortar, but it's a self-propelled heavy mortar, the Tulip, 240 millimeter. This is a huge self-propelled mortar and quite a high value target. Now, for that to be taken out by a one-way drone is a bit of a value asymmetry. It's the sort of thing I've talked about before. There's lots of footage of this kind of stuff floating around. That was from yesterday, or at least the footage came out yesterday. So 36 is just another big day. All of those categories. 3 multiple launch rocket systems is serious, and there's quite a lot of footage of multiple launch rocket systems getting taken out. Like that figure is certainly utterly realistic. 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, 18 drones, vehicles and fuel tanks, 34. Another big loss in terms of Russian logistics there, and 10 pieces of special equipment. You can see this number was below 1 a day until the counteroffensive started, and is now moving towards 2 a day because the average is getting shifted by days where as many as 10, I think 11's the most I've seen, pieces of special equipment lost. Of course, that category is very wide. ranging in terms of it could be a demining piece of special equipment or an excavator, but then also very likely to be electronic warfare, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance stuff too. So 10 pieces of that loss is bad. I mean, that is another really significant day of attrition for the Russian forces, according to the Ukrainian General Staff. And hopefully this will mean that the coming moves into counter-offensive are going to be somewhat easier as that attrition takes its toll. I've already told you about that video. Go and check out the Counting the Dead video from War Graphics. Just talking about electronic warfare, here is, I don't know how they got a hold of this, but here is a Russian first-person view drone losing control under the influence of the Ukrainian-made electronic warfare system. It falls in a field, not on the head of our fighters or equipment. I presume that means that you know, it stores its video image. It doesn't just send it back, but it stores its video image on board. So of course, if you can grab the drone, then you've got the footage. So yeah, obvious, isn't it? Right, so there you go. That's the kind of thing that happens now. Oryx here has their visually confirmed list of losses. I haven't shared their daily one with you because they've only got 3 Russian tanks and 1 Ukrainian tank. It's like very little, so I don't know what's going on there, considering that, you know, quite a lot of kit has been lost. And Andrew Perpetua hasn't got his out yet, but I thought this was quite an interesting analysis. So Richard Verica says the T-80, let's go and have a look at this a little bit closer. So the T-80 is, we're talking about this major blue one, the T-80BV there. So the T-80BV has gone from a small proportion of Russian losses in the first few months of to the biggest loser, and that will be because they have been able to reactivate a lot and bring them to the front line. Data table and some thoughts in the comments below. So he says, here is the data table. I've not added September the 23rd yet, as there are not enough data points to be useful, but will soon. All data is from War Spotting. Any mistakes transposing it are my own. War Spotting is basically an equivalent to Oryx that will be continuing after Oryx gives up on October 1st. I have been asked why the T-80BVs, are serving like this. Compared to T-72s, it's not my area of expertise, but there are 4 main reasons in my opinion. The T-80BV was relatively more recently built, he says, mostly mid to late 80s. They were mostly put into storage in the mid 90s, so they only 5 to 7 years of use and are not worn out. So they've not been knackered. They've been put into storage, and therefore they can be reactivated quite simply. T-80s have turbine engines that use a lot of fuel, so they were too expensive for 1990s Russia. So that's why they put them into storage. Not many nations use T-80s, so they have not been raided for spare parts to sell on the black market as much. And finally, Russia had already reactivated a lot of the best T-72s, mostly to upgrade and sell international flights over the last 15 years. International flights. But has only done this with 1 small batch of T-80s. Russia still has a lot of old T-72s. That's a bit of a typo he's got there, and he admits that. But it will be hard, maybe impossible for them to significantly increase the speed at which they are reactivated. So in other words, you're seeing a lot of T-80BVs being taken out at the moment because they're having to pull them from storage. And they have a lot more of these in storage because they didn't have a lot of international demand for them. They're really juicy on the fuel. So, for example, when it comes to winter, they're using a lot of T-80s in order to keep the crew warm inside with the engines running. They need that turbine going, and that's going to be pretty juicy for the Russians. We saw that issue in the winter of last year, well, actually the beginning of the whole war back in February, March, April 2022, when they had all those tanks and pieces of kit lined up in convoys, and they needed to keep people warm, and they were using huge amounts of fuel to do so, but also it translated into quite an obvious thermal signature as well, which means that you're an easy target. The Ukrainians have lost the Russians have lost a bunch of T-90Ms. He's their most recent tank recently, and the Ukrainians were able to capture one in working order in Zaporizhia near Robotyne. It's the 37th confirmed loss of a T-90M tank by Russia during the war, and the third one confirmed to have been captured by the Ukrainians. That is that. Now, here's a bit of footage. I'll just show you the beginning of this. Okay, what do we have? We have an MRAP, so a mine-resistant ambush protection vehicle, has stopped by mines and hit by guided artillery. So it's a failed Ukrainian attempt to attack a trench in Novomayorsky. Why I'm showing you this is just how many mines there are. So just have a look at how many mines explode as this vehicle goes from there to there before it stops. Off. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 5. I think that's maybe 5 mines in about 5 meters. Let's just look at that again. Sorry, I'll enlarge it for you now. So already 1 there, 2, 3, possibly 4, 5. 5 mines, yeah. And I don't know whether they're all anti-personnel. They look a bit bigger than anti-personnel there. So some of them could be anti-vehicle mines. And obviously, there's a mine protection. This is a mine-resistant ambush protection vehicle, but it's not that mines just bounce off it and it's completely magically protected from mines. So mines will disable it, but it will protect the people inside. And actually what you see is the people get out. Now, I'm not going to show you this, but the people get out. I would not hang around near to that because this is now a sitting target. And this is exactly what happens. So there's a really precise hit on top of it with some kind of artillery munition. And the people around it are just thrown out everywhere. But actually, I think they do get back up. And this is what's interesting about this. After that artillery piece has hit the top of that MRAP, people do get out the back and run off. And so I don't know that anyone. I mean, I'm sure you got some injuries there, but I'm not sure you see anyone definitely perish in that incident. You can go and check it out yourself. So it goes to show how resilient some of these vehicles are. But this was a failed attack. And it's just the number of mines that present themselves as a massive challenge to the Ukrainians in attacking is incredible. So yeah, you can check that footage out. Go and click on the link in the description below. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, Russia on fire. Another factory, this time in Kursk. Kursk was hit by drones again yesterday. It's been repeatedly hit, Kursk. But I don't think that's a drone here. That's just another Russia on fire incident. Right, we'll go to strikes. Not too much to report, to be perfectly honest. In Bryansk, that microelectronics plant has been hit again. So I think that's the 3rd time. I reported it yesterday it was hit. I think it's been hit 2 days in a row now. Unknown drone hit the Kryemny microelectronics plant again in Bryansk. Right. Tim White says, news of another attack on the illegal elections in occupied Zaporizhia. This time, I reported on it in Mariupol and said, wow, they used a Storm Shadow missile to hit an elections polling station. I said, I'm not sure that's a good use of very expensive munition. Of course, lots of people rightly said, don't be an idiot. It's probably partisans or drones. And I forget that, because I've seen so many Storm Shadow hits on Mariupol, I just think as soon as there's an explosion there, I just think it's a Storm Shadow. But actually, of course, they can still hit it with drones. They can hit plumbing anywhere around with drones. They're hitting right into the north of Moscow and Sukhov air base. Of course, they can hit Mariupol with drones. And there's evidently partisan activity there as well. So, yeah. Anyway, this time it is in Polohy, which is fairly close to the front line, actually, where Ukraine's armed forces, just to let you know where Polohy is, it's somewhere around here. There it is. Very close to the front line. Closer than Tokmak, actually. So, that's in artillery range. Case, don't believe me or something. There you go. So that's 21 kilometers from where you'd eat from Halaipale. So it's easily in artillery range there. Anyway, that's been hit. They hit the Central Military District, the United Russia headquarters. That's the political party that Putin is a member of or head of, armed forces and the resistance. So good news there. Okay, moving on. We have Kursk. Drone hitting Bryansk. This is, don't know about this. It's just a vehicle on fire. And if it is a drone hitting Bryansk, well, I suppose there's a house there too. Just not quite sure if that's a good use of drone. What's happened to the drone is electronic warfare, so on and so forth. Nonetheless, the claim is that that's a drone exploding in evidently a residential neighborhood. Russian FAB 500 guided bomb. Now, what's interesting about this, a couple of things to note here is, one, it's a massive explosion, and this is why these are feared munitions. Now, that's an FAB 500. They're now creating FAB 1500. So that's a 500 kilogram explosive. Imagine being 3 times as big. This has landed in an empty field. I think someone has got into their brains. In other words, electronic warfare. So the idea is that this is completely inaccurate due to Ukrainian electronic warfare being utilized on it. So that is, just hitting a field. Luckily, that is a completely, useless, ineffectual attack there. But it's a big explosion. These, in my books, their aviation. Russian aviation is a real thorn in the side of the Ukrainians for lots of reasons, and one of them is these FAB bombs that are just a huge threat to Ukrainian life and infrastructure. Right, moving on to other bits and pieces. Next to here, reporting that in the Russian pseudo-elections that we've already mentioned in the occupied regions of Ukraine, just 3 minutes after opening the polling stations in Kherson region, 53% of voters have already voted. In the DPR, 45%, the LPR, 26%, and Zaporizhia region, 28%. That's amazing. That's the most successful voting in the history of voting. 3 minutes, 53% of people have voted already. Or it's just completely fake. A load of rubbish. Okay. To a Russian pilot who flies a MiG-31 with a Kinzhal missile on board to Ukraine, the GUI of Ukraine will pay $2 million and documents of any NATO country of choice for the whole family, reportedly. I take that with a pinch of salt. However, I've seen this claim in a few places, and indeed, the pilot of the Russian helicopter that landed did earn himself a whole package of money, and his family were extracted from Russia. So, they do come true on those kind of offers. Yeah. Now, I'll try not to rant here. Like, Alex Jones is a grade A plonker anyway. If you don't know Alex Jones, he's a guy from InfoWars that was saying that Sandy Hook massacre with the children in the elementary school that were all shot. He said it was a hoax, and then he was taken to court by the parents of the dead children and rightfully done in court. Anyway, he's trying to pick up the pieces to his life. And what does he do? He goes and has an interview with Solovyov. Just, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is like the dragon's lair. You're in with absolute Russian propagandists, and this is like the fringe of American politics, and I don't know, that information space, but I say information and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Like InfoWars, there's wars over information, this guy, and it should be disinfo wars. But anyway, lots of people are talking about this, and it's proper cringe. But if you've got someone said, if you've got a tough stomach for this, it's worth a watch. So Vladimir Solovyov interviewed Alex Jones and went into a meltdown over technical difficulties. This footage was later deleted from the show, but you can see it here, says Julia Davis from Russia Media Monitor. Jones cried, something he does do, complained and almost vomited. Here are some of the cringiest moments. So you can see that on her YouTube channel. Go and check out Russia Media Monitor, or you can find Julia Davis on Twitter as well. Well worth following, and my goodness, lots of cringe to watch at times. And then finally, just for this section, This was really impressive. So this is over Donetsk, which is occupied, right? The city of Donetsk. And this is a massive Ukrainian flag. How the hell did they get a massive Ukrainian flag in the middle of the sky, just suspended? Pretty nuts. Anyway, turns out this is how they did it. So massive flag there, suspended by loads of balloons, helium balloons, one would assume, and then it slowly lifts into the air. That's pretty cool. And a nice day for it. So well done, Ukraine. I like that. Clever. Anyway, that's that. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'm going to get on with the second piece today. It might be a bit of a funky day. There's lots of sporting events to attend to. England playing Ukraine in football. There's also England playing rugby in their first match of the World Cup, which is starting. So that's going to really mess with my schedule these days for the next month. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. Speak soon.